If not self-custody, why crypto?
Well, I totally agree with this. If not self-custody, then why crypto? Just think about it. Crypto has a huge advantage compared to many other investments. You can have really full control of your crypto portfolio. And in the next 1 hour, I'm going to talk about a lot of interesting things with Ian Rogers, who is the Chief Experience Officer of Ledger. And he's in this position since 2021. But before, actually, he worked for LVMH as the Chief Digital Officer for 5 transformative years. Also working with a portfolio of nearly 100 brands across luxury, including Louis Vuitton and Dior. Also, I spent 20 years bringing digital music to the mainstream. First with Winamp, then Yahoo, Beats, and Apple. And as I said, he is the Chief Experience Officer of Ledger since 2021. And in this interview, we're going to talk about a lot of important things. First of all, I would like to clarify a couple of things about Ledger Recover service, because this was something new what Ledger introduced, and maybe the introduction of this service wasn't that perfect, and there were a lot of misunderstanding, but now we have history already and we can see how it's actually functioning. So very important to clarify a couple of things about this. Also, Ledger came out with the news a couple of months ago that they're going to stop blind signing this summer. So I would like to ask Ian that what's happening when you cannot do blind signing anymore, because in many cases when you use DEX, and you swap things, you use this function, or when you stake things, then you use this function with Ledger blind signing. And what if you are not able to do it anymore, or what Ledger plan is with this, because they just made this statement a couple of months ago. Also some future plans of Ledger and lot of things. So it's a jam-packed episode, 1 hour with Ian Rogers, Ledger's Chief Experience Officer. So let's do it. So I have here Ian Rogers from Ledger, the Chief Experience Officer. Ian, welcome to Blockchain Bloom Hungary and Blockchain Bloom.
Thank you so much for having me. I've never been to Hungary in person, so I'm happy to be there this way.
You should come. I mean, you travel a lot. Right now, you are in Italy. Ledger is in Paris, and Hungary is not that far away, and Budapest is beautiful. So you should make it one day.
I would really love to, sincerely.
Right. And actually, we did talk back in, when was that? In 2022. It was in September in Paris, the last time. That was the Binance Blockchain Week. And I do remember I have a very short interview with you. It's about like 3 minutes, kind of. Now we have a bit more time to talk. And just a couple of months after that, crazy things happened in crypto, and mainly now I'm talking about the FTX collapse, because that was probably the biggest hit in the bear market, among with others, obviously. And I'm just actually curious, in your experience, how that changed people's opinion on importance of self-custody, because I think that was a huge thing. And you, who's working for Ledger, and your work is mainly focused on self-custody and protecting crypto, I'm really curious about that.
Yeah, I mean, there's no question that FTX was a real pivotal moment in people really appreciating self-custody in a different way. I mean, and I say that because there are so many of us that were passionate about self-custody before and we're passionate after. Ledger's been around for almost 10 years now and has really been saying the same thing for all of those 10 years, that we don't compromise on security or self-custody. And we're driving toward more utility and ease of use with your crypto. But, like my pinned tweet says, like, if not self-custody, why crypto? But as you can imagine, in 2021 and through most of 2022, as we were building these features into Ledger Live, like buying and swapping, et cetera, people would say to us like, oh, I mean, come on, you're such a idealist, there are these great exchanges like Binance and FTX, and why do I want to pay on-chain fees to do this, to do swaps and whatnot? after FTX, people were like, oh, wait, you mean you can swap from self-custody to self-custody?
Mhm.
That's an amazing idea. Like, wow, what a great thing you've done, Ledger. And I was like, okay, well, I've been saying the same thing for a year and a half, but before FTX, you didn't, kind of realize before FTX, you were like, wow, I'll just do it on an exchange. And after FTX, people really understood that the ability to buy and have that land in self-custody, the ability to swap from self-custody to self-custody, to swap from Bitcoin to stablecoin,
Mm.
there's lots of reasons that people want to do that and do it regularly. And it was definitely much more appreciated. For us as a business, that whole 2022 was crazy, of course. Celsius going illiquid was a 5x day over day for us. Solana getting hacked in August of 22 was a 6x day over day for us. And then
Mm.
around FTX, we had our biggest sales month ever. I'll never forget that week where we had our biggest sales day ever on a Sunday. And Sundays are
Right.
traditionally a slow sales day for us. And it was the biggest sales day in the history of the company was on a Sunday that was followed by the biggest sales day in the history of the company on a Monday. And I remember because it was leading into Black Friday and we were so overwhelmed with sales that we considered canceling we had Black Friday promotional plans that we considered canceling. Because I'm like, my shipping team won't even be able, like, we'll have like a 2-week delay, maybe we shouldn't even do this campaign. Thankfully, things kind of like slowed down toward the end of that week. And then we did the Black Friday campaign. And in the end, November was the biggest sales month. Of November of 22 was the biggest sales month. But then you had crazy events in 2023, like the SVB
Mm.
meltdown. I wasn't, I didn't have SVB melting down on my bingo card for 2023, yet it happened and led to sales. Even yesterday, where you had a big run in Bitcoin and a temporary outage of Coinbase, it was a 2x day over day for us. So when FTX failed and my friends called me, my friends who are not in the crypto business, but they know what I do, they called and
Mm.
said, Ian, are you okay? I'm sure lots of your listeners had the same calls from friends. And I said, look, this is short-term very good, long-term fine, because we're long-term believers in
Mm.
crypto and digital assets. Midterm, this is going to be hard, right?
Right.
Because this is going to scare a lot of people away. And so I think, good for, good and bad. We were right in our estimation, but we did what good companies do during bear markets and just kept building.
Yeah, because this happened exactly at the bottom of the bear market, or FTX caused kind of bottom of the bear market. But Ledger, because of this, actually, we're doing pretty well because of the sales. So actually, you get
Yeah. Our
nice
sales
revenue and could
continued,
build.
yeah, our sales continued to be very strong during that bear market for those reasons, and also the fact that we have, now, services like buy and sell and swap and a credit card, these things also perform very well. And like your original question, people actually appreciated our services more post FTX than before because
Mm.
they realized they could do these things from self-custody. But with the market less interesting, like everyone, we sold fewer nanos in 2023 than in 2021. But with big pickups, here, starting actually end of last year and coming into this year, we've got a great business, and super, super happy. And we have lots more coming, which I'm looking forward to tell you about.
Great. You mentioned services, new services, and one of the new services which you came up with was the recovery service. But when this actually hit the market, the news, it wasn't an obvious yes from everybody. So some people welcomed it, some didn't. So it was kind of controversial topic. Now we are a couple of months, almost a year, kind of after the news came, not yet, but like about. So you can see things, settle down. But I would be curious about two things. One, could you please explain to my viewers who are not familiar totally with the issue? So what is this briefly, and actually how is Ledger doing it? So they understood the whole thing, what is behind it. And actually, how do you see now the people reaction? Now they started to use it, and how satisfied they are, all these kind of things. You have already a feedback because now it's in progress.
Sure. I'll actually start with the second one, which is,
Okay.
the pickup has been, really good, better than we had estimated,
Mhm.
and increasing, which is great. And my feeling, and then I'll get back to the specifics of what it is in a second, but my feeling has been from the beginning that this thing kind of needs to exist in market for some time for people to be comfortable with it.
Right.
You have to remember, in the history of Ledger, we've seen a few of these moments. When Ledger supported more than just Bitcoin,
Mm.
people lost their minds temporarily, right? When Ledger added Bluetooth, that was, there were questions. Is that a
Mhm.
secure, is that a threat vector, right? So,
Right.
then obviously, like, security is job one for us. So we would never introduce something that we thought was a threat vector. There are so many
Mhm.
people who are willing to compromise on either self-custody or security or both.
Mhm.
They usually say that it's how we onboard the masses, or something. We can't do it without, but we know that it always ends in disaster, right? So for us, that's our commitment, is that we do our best to bring ease of use without compromising on security or self-custody. That's like our North Star, that we don't compromise. Like, we really, we believe that Ledger should be freedom from compromise, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
But at the same time, like, when you do something new, people rightly ask questions. Also, we didn't we made a mistake in the way that we introduced it, in that it made it into a README file, and people had to ask questions about it before we had all of the information out there.
Mhm. Right.
Also, I think we underestimated what people's response would be, in a
Mhm.
couple of ways. And then I'll explain what it is, and people will understand why. What Ledger Recover is for us is, the way that we look at the world. These are the actual stats. There are 5.3 billion people on the internet today. There are 5 billion people on social media. There are about 2.4, 2.3 billion people who play video games, right?
Right.
That's how many people are in the world of centralized value propositions
Mhm.
overall, right? Where someone can, take your inventory from your game, your identity can be stolen with your iCloud account, et cetera, right? Like, we live in a very sort of, I give my identity, data, everything over to that centralized
Mhm.
person in pretty much every case on the internet that has grown up. Okay, so we believe in crypto. That means we believe in some sort of digital ownership
Mhm.
and sovereignty. Yet there are about 500 million people in crypto, and, if I'm being generous, probably only 10 million people who actually have secure custody of their private keys,
Mhm.
right? And of those people, how many of them have good operational security, right? I'll let you do your own, kind
Right.
of math. I would argue we have a massive problem, massive, right? We have, again, 5 billion people on social media, 500 million people in crypto, and maybe 10 million people with secure self-custody. So how do we actually get there from here? Because I think it's a legit question. And so, there are many people who have been in crypto for a very long time, and they're very comfortable holding their own private keys. But we also know that if you're going to onboard your sister, or your uncle, who, they don't even know where to begin with operational
Mhm.
security. Operational security to them is one password across, 50 sites, right? And so asking them to be stewards of their private keys is really a bridge too far. And I think on some level we all know this, right? So
Mhm.
our question is, how can we bring more people into self-custody, in a secure way? So what Ledger Recover is it creates a backup for your secret recovery phrase. And that backup is tied to your identification. We've actually published a white paper as well as a source code. If people would like to see how it works, it's been peer reviewed, in 1,000 different ways. We're actually quite proud of it. I think if you actually read. There's, I think, a series of 6 blog posts that detail in pretty plain speak. You know, you don't have to be a cryptographer to understand it exactly how it works. It's pretty interesting. I sent it to you know, a friend's son who is studying computer science and was like, hey, you might enjoy this, you know, and he really was like, holy shit, this is so cool, how this works. So it's one of those kind of things, and all of that detail is out there. And I think that, you know, the response from the security and crypto community has been, and cryptographic community has been overwhelmingly, you know, positive. The way that it works broadly is that your private key is encoded, broken into 3 shards. It's given to 3 different custodians, one in France, one in the UK, one in the US. I think having, you know, kind of 3 different governmental jurisdictions is also important. So nobody has a copy of your private key. They can't be assembled anywhere except inside the nano. So if you need to recover, then you have to go through 2 different identity checks. And then the recovery phrase is recovered inside of your nano. And from our partner on Ledger Recover, which is a company called CoinCover, they're offering up to $50,000 in recovery should something go wrong. $50,000 in compensation should something go wrong with the recovery, right? So, and we also know that the vast majority of people, like approaching 99% of people, have less than $50,000 of value in their wallet, right? So, you know, we definitely heard, you know, complaints from people who think that the only purpose of a ledger is to hold, you know, $5 million worth of Bitcoin, you know, that they were, you know, terrified about this. But, you know, it changes nothing for those people. You know, it doesn't change anything about, if you don't, also Ledger Recover costs $10 a month. You have to opt into it. You know, it's not something that you know, everybody does. It's completely optional, and and there's no security change to your device without it. So it's really, you know, from our perspective, how do we get at least more of those 500 million people, who most of whom are on exchanges, to take that first step into self-custody? That's really exactly what this product is for. I'm on an exchange. I've never trusted myself with my recovery phrase before. You know, I do understand the nervousness around exchanges. I've seen what happened to FTX. I've seen liquidity crunches at other exchanges. I've seen exchanges go out of business. And, you know, another one, there's one in Hong Kong right now that's kind of evaporating. I'm not sure what the update on that is. I've followed the news all of it this week, but you know what you know, you see it. Okay, so how do I take this first step into self-custody? Well, Ledger Recover is for you. So that's what it is and how it works. And like I said, the response has been amazing. I was going to say one more thing. The other reason for us, the other motivation for us is, we are, as you can imagine, the lightning rod for the horror stories, right? Hey man, is there anything you can do, because I lost my nano and I can't find my recovery phrase, and I thought I knew where it was, but now I don't. And man, it's my kid's college fund. I mean, it's not millions of dollars, but it was like $300. It's a lot of money to me, man. Like, surely you can help me.
And you can't.
we don't have a back door. That's not how our technology works. Like, is actually the point. We don't have a back door. And what I want is the opposite. I want to hear the stories like, dude, oh my God, if I hadn't had Ledger Recover, I'd have been so fucked last week. You know what I mean? Like that, you know what I mean? It just in your, which story do you want to hear every day? You know, and so that is why we made Ledger Recover, to, you know, because we think that we're frankly nervous that, again, if not self-custody, why crypto? Okay, well, guess what, guys? We don't have self-custody in crypto. We do, but not for the majority, right? So how do we get more people to take a step into self-custody? I'm open to any answer to that question. Recover, I think, is one answer to that question, right? And it's additive. It's not the only answer, but it's an answer. I mean, another way to put it is having infrastructure around people owning their private keys. Look at what's going to happen with passkeys. I don't know if you're following passkeys, right? We're moving toward a passwordless environment. What that means is you're just going to put more of your identity into Google, into iCloud, maybe into 1Password, you know, I want human beings to own their private keys. That's what I want. That's my goal in life.
Mm.
And so to me, anything that gets more human beings to be in possession of their private keys is something that's headed the right direction. And that's what Ledger Recover is about.
Right. Okay. Thanks for explanation. I think one thing what was actually partly good for Ledger, this FTX collapse in a way that people started to think about more, self-custody and these kind of things, but also made people think that we think that the company is working just fine from the outside. I'm talking about FTX now, what the majority, that's what they saw. And out of the blue, something just happens and it turns out to be a mess, which they didn't know. And I think when you guys came out with this recovery service, that just I think for many hardcore crypto guys, put it in this way, the question was that we actually see the surface, which looks nice and promising, but we have examples from the history and not we don't have to go far back because we just have FTX when shady things happening in the back. So is it actually technically now possible? And now there's the question mark for them. So can actually Ledger really see or, access to my, 24 words recovery phrase to the private key? Yes, they say that, you have to actually buy this service. So it's not for free. It costs money. But it could give them the possibility, maybe, having a backdoor, even they saying there is none. So I think, and this is probably what needs time, as you just said at the beginning, answering this question. With times, everything is just getting better, and something when you do something new, something revolutionary. And yes, probably I do agree with you that the communication of it at the very beginning, it could be better, because that caused some confusions. But we all human beings, so.
I think that's right. I think that there's two things there. One, that we did screw up the communication because it got to people before we had a chance to explain. So that's on us. There was part though that we just simply underestimated. And what we found is that people actually thought we were magic. Right. And that was a surprise to us, because the reality is that if your wallet can sign a transaction, then your wallet has your private key. Right. Like that's how wallets work. That's why it was a bit bifurcated in the community, because people who have a strong awareness of how wallets work were kind of like, yeah, duh, in a way. Whereas other people who maybe, you know what I mean, they really thought there was like something else. So the way that the way that it actually works is, that your private key, it stays inside the secure enclave. It lives there. It stays there in the secure element. It stays there when the transaction is done, right? And your private key is never accessed unless you explicitly allow it. That's the way the operating system works. And but the reality is, don't trust, verify in all cases. So you can verify with Ledger in a way that was not possible with FTX. I mean, I think that's the important thing for people to understand. So that's why I encourage people to read the white paper, read the blog posts. If you're so inclined, look at the source code, or talk to a security expert who has looked at the source code. And one thing this did, which is a good thing, is it pushed us to release even more of the source code.
Yeah, I think that's good.
Yeah, and because it's not that we hadn't wanted to, it's just frankly, we're in the bull market, you're running 100 miles an hour and people want features from you more than they want source code. So but this forced us to like reprioritize that, and which is a good thing. We actually really welcomed it. And so basically, so Ledger Live is 100% open source, 90, I don't want to say 99, I don't know if it's 98, but every single thing that can be open source is open source. And the only thing that can't be is having a secure element. The secure element has proprietary code from the secure element provider that it's illegal for us to open source. And that's part of how they protect. Now you have, so the trade-off that you're making is, do you want a secure element or not? And devices that don't have secure elements, it's very well documented how you can actually break them if you're in physical possession of them.
Mhm.
So, with a ledger, you can look at, 99% of the source code, and the only one you can't is in this secure element, which is the same secure element that's in your credit card and in your passport and everything else. You
Right.
know what I mean? And you can take your ledger and, leave it on the table at the cafe and not worry about it. So to me, these are always like the trade-offs that you're looking for. I totally agree. Don't trust verify. And to your point, with something like FTX, you're unable to verify. With
Yes.
Ledger, you are able to verify. You can verify yourself. You can do it. I also think though that it's important for people to understand you're always going to have, unless you are literally writing your own wallet from scratch,
Mhm.
you are going to have to trust someone. So choose
Yeah.
who you're going to trust wisely, right? And there's a spectrum here, right? Do I trust a bank? Do I trust the government? Do I trust Coinbase? Do I trust Binance? Do I trust FTX? Do I trust Ledger Recover? Do I trust CryptoSteel and my own operational
Mhm.
security around CryptoSteel? Do I trust a piece of paper with my 24 words on it and my operational security around that? Like, you have to choose where in this chain. But in any case, if your wallet provider is the attacker,
Yeah.
you're screwed, right?
Exactly.
I don't care if that's MetaMask or Phantom or Coinbase Wallet, or if your wallet provider is the attacker, man, and again, unless you have coded your own wallet,
Mhm.
that is a tough threat vector. I think that, again, do your own research, look at the source code, look at the white paper, and look at the history. Ledger has been here for 10 years.
Mhm.
The only thing we've been focused on is security and self-custody. That's
Yep. Fair enough.
that's it. So I'll
Okay,
shut up.
and great, thanks. And actually, the other thing, and I think this is a move what you guys also announced end of last year, going in a way towards even more security. It was disable blind signing from this year, June, and I'm also curious, not just my viewers, that how this could change their daily habits with Ledger, because in many cases you, for example, have small tokens which are just available on DEXs, and you can mention Uniswap on whichever. And in many cases, when you sign a transaction right now, it's end up with the blind signing doing that. So, and actually, June is coming up pretty quick, and I personally haven't heard from anywhere else from the crypto industry what kind of changes or moves they willing to make actually work together with you guys. So I would be very curious that where are we right now in this process and how the industry is responding and what kind of solutions will be there.
It's a great question. I really appreciate you asking. Give me the opportunity to answer it, because you are correct. And by the way, I don't know that June will be a hard date. And actually, there's a whole bunch of info on this coming. So the team is at ETH Denver right now,
Mhm.
and what they have is a plan that they're talking to tons of people in the ecosystem about at ETH Denver. They'll come back, and assuming the plan is well received, or maybe mostly well received and needs some
Mhm.
modifications, but they'll, based on the feedback they get from various partners at ETH Denver, we'll be doing a public unveiling of the technical plan and in terms of how we intend to solve it. But let's start with, okay, so what is blind signing, right? And why is it a bad idea? It's what it means is that you're signing something, somewhere, maybe on a ledger, maybe in a software wallet, but you can't see what it is you're signing, right? It's like signing a contract without reading it, right?
Mhm.
So, maybe you look at the URL, maybe you've got even some sort of simulation software like what's in Robbie or others. But still, you're not really reading the contract. You're kind of just you're hoping. The
Mhm.
reality is that ultimately you will get wrecked, right? It's
Okay.
there's on over some time horizon, especially if it's something that you're doing often and normally it's okay. And like even very sophisticated people get wrecked,
Mhm.
with this, because you get complacent, look good. It was just like yesterday, but you didn't realize that today it wasn't like yesterday. And you really can get a lot of kind of hacks in the software supply chain that
Yes.
could cause a problem.
It
Uh,
actually did happen like a month ago or something that there was somebody placed something in the code and
Correct.
you
In
know on
December,
Dexys kind of.
yeah, well, in December, we had something where someone was able to change something in the way that wallets connected to your ledger, that just
Mm,
put up a fake, it was just a fake signature
right.
page that put the assets in the hacker's wallet instead of where you intended them to go. Right. And so that could happen in a lot of different places in the overall supply chain. But the reality is it didn't happen to anyone that was using Ledger Live, and it didn't happen to anyone who wasn't blind signing.
Hmm.
Right. So like so how do you get rid of it? So what you need to do is you need to get enough information in front of the consumer that you can know if something is not what you intended it to be. Right. So how are you secure? You're secure if your private key is in a secure element, if your private key stays there when you do your transaction, and if you can approve a transaction on a secure screen. But you have to know what it is you're approving. Right. If it just says blind signing and you say YOLO, that's not security.
Hmm.
Right. I mean, and unfortunately, like we've all gotten very accustomed to doing that. We blind sign a lot, multiple
Mm, yeah.
times a day in the ecosystem. And we actually presented a solution to this problem 3 years ago. But the solution to that problem, and we've had it in, for example, I have an app on my Nano for Paraswap. I have an app on my Nano for other parts of the ecosystem, and I can see on the Nano exactly the data before I sign it. But
Okay.
that required people to create a plugin for the Nano.
Okay.
So the dApp developers are not necessarily, C developers, and
Hmm.
to ask them to kind of create a plugin for every dApp on the Nano, it's not really a scalable solution. So the solution that we will have, I mean, it won't be perfect, but it will be a huge improvement, and it will be a combination of and remember also that we have stacks coming, and you've seen the UI on stacks. It's not like a little window like is on
Yes.
like Nano now. It's an e-ink touchscreen, so you can put a lot of data there. And that's the other thing that we're developing for, is to be able to actually see, oh, okay, I can see what this transaction is, and if the result of this is I'm transferring something that I didn't intend to transfer, or so it's a combination of what we've been calling Web3 check, which we had in Ledger extension. That just means transaction simulation, so that you can see before you click sign, here's the result of this smart contract. And also there are some other red flags there, right? Like, okay, the contract and the site that you clicked on don't match, or this contract has only been around for 24 hours, or you know what I mean? Like there's lots of
Hmm.
little almost like spam filter-ish kind of red flags where you can go like, wait a minute, something doesn't smell right here. Take a look at this, right? So that's kind of one class of things. And the other class is, can we, instead of you just seeing raw contract data, can we present to you what that raw contract data means, right? And
Okay.
present it to you on a secure screen. And that's going to fix, or not fix, but that will save people from the majority of issues. Because in the majority of issues, it's just plain not what you expected. And if you could have seen what was going to happen, it would have been obvious, right? So
Hmm.
in other
Right.
words, there may be other attack vectors, but it will attack most of the attack vectors that get you in blind signing today. It's always a cat and mouse game. I don't want to pretend that there's a silver bullet, right?
Yes.
But reality is that, I mean, I'm sure, I'm there just like your users, right? I'm doing things every day where I'm blind signing. And what do? I look at it, sometimes I'll actually inspect the contract data, but mostly I'm just looking to see, okay, where am I? What side am I on? Do I trust this site? But then you got to remember there could be things from the side. There could be these software supply chain attacks, and everything looks good, but unless you are actually inspecting the contract, which most users are not going to do. My
Yes.
Ledger CTO does it. Most users aren't going to do it, right? Sure, it's possible. Most users aren't going to do it. So can we, and I mean we collectively, not just Ledger, I
Right.
mean, the dApps, other wallets, can we all agree on how we do this so that the user can actually, can actually see what it is they are signing? Because there's no way that that the industry that we're in can scale if that's not the case. I mean, if you're, if you can literally, click the wrong thing and lose, assets that are important to you, I don't care what the total amount is, right? We all have different, different kind of bars for what that is, but it doesn't matter. It's possible and it must go away. So that's what we're doing. And it won't be the case either where we, keep you from being able to interact. If you desperately want or need to blind sign, we stand for freedom.
Okay.
You can do what you want. What we need to do as an industry, though, is make it so the default is not like a security level of YOLO, which is
Okay.
where we are today.
So basically what you're saying, because for example, on your ledger, when you get into the Ethereum app, then you go into the settings, and actually the very first one which pops up is blind signing originally disabled, and then you can click and then you make it enable. So in the future, it probably going to look like that you will have this possibility where you get all the details, so you're not doing the blind signing. But if you really, really would like to use a site or something where actually they just allow you to do blind signing, it's then your own judgment to decide that. So Ledger will make it possible for those who desperately want to do it. Just they would like to push it in the direction that you have this obvious information, and you can make a judgment. Because my question, the first thing was that first of all, how the whole DEX is, everybody will respond to this, because if just an example, Uniswap doesn't make it available, to do this in this way, but you have a token which you have both through Uniswap, and it's not available other DEXs, and at the end of the year, maybe that little token, looks much better, and you would like to cash out, then you kind of have to do it in a way. Yeah. Also, have now these launchpads, and then you stake your launchpad token to get into these IDOs. And actually, if you unstake this before Ledger would make this move, then you losing your access to the IDOs you invested in the first place. So because you can just unstake these if you really want to get those things. So it's great to hear that actually. So first of all, you're pushing the industry in this direction with Ledger coming up with this idea, would like to have an influence on the industry and willing them to push in this direction. But those who really go against it, or they're not going with you guys, the users of Ledger would have the opportunity to somehow cash out their crypto.
Yeah, I mean, look, we're all about freedom.
Okay.
It's your assets. You can do whatever you want to with them. I think that
great to hear.
I think that the thing that we really need, though, and we collectively need to insist this, it's shocking to me that the dApps that we interact with don't care. Right? You know what I mean? Like, think about, really, Uniswap's a great example, like how much volume has been done there.
A lot.
And has anyone ever actually done a secure transaction there? Not that I'm aware of. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I've only ever done it with a software wallet, garbage, or blind signing. Bad idea. It's like, oh my God, how have we made it this far? You know what I mean? It's actually shocking that we made it this far. So, and I do think that people do care, but I also think that the solution that we provided 3 years ago wasn't really scalable. Right? Like, to ask them to create an app for the Nano. Okay, we're talking about something which is much more industry wide, very doable. And I'm really excited for people to see it. So I'll just give you like the honest, I'm giving you like the honest, there's no secret here, but we actually, like, the team has been working on it since December. Okay. We presented it to the entire Ledger engineering organization on Monday, actually. And it was great. And my response was, oh my God, let's like record this and share it with everyone. Smartly, their response was, let's take it to ETH Denver and try it out on lots of, other people in the ecosystem, dApps and other wallets. And friendlies in the ecosystem to see if they also think it's great. I mean, before we just put a video on YouTube, right? Which I think is very smart. And then I think that what we will have though really soon is like we will have that kind of industry-wide call where everybody can come in, we share it, we take questions, we take that video, we post it, everybody can see it, you can see exactly what it is, exactly how it'll work. Because to get something that everyone can adopt means it certainly won't be 100% solution. But look, the 80-20 rule applies here, right? If we if we can really get rid of kind of the nastiest problems that come up over and over again, and it's something that dApps can very easily adopt, it's just good for everybody. Because when one person loses their value, we all lose. It sets us all back. It's like, think about the people now that just get the chance to say, like, this crypto world is full of scammers, like, digital value in the world where you could safely say this year's the worst year for cybercrime every single year and be correct. Like, how can you have, digital value in that environment? Like, you're always going to have those people, and it's on all of us to fix that. It's on every dApp, every wallet, we must like actually solve these problems. And that was the realization for us in December, because we went, okay, this is we're not proud of this. Like, this soft supply chain that happened to us is not good. And, we're not making excuses. Like, this is bad. And then you go, this is actually more likely to happen to others. I mean, look at the security that FTX had. It was a joke. They had, recovery phrases in text files that were easy to find, like, and so you don't know the OPSEC of the site that you are using. The only way to know is to verify what you are seeing on a secure screen. It's the only way. There's no substitution for it. Everything else is chance.
Yeah.
This probably isn't the moment. Okay. It's like, I always joke that like blind signing is like unsafe sex. It's fine until it's not. It's probably even fun. It's even fun until it's not. But then when it's not, it's really not, So, so that anyway, that's what we're driving at here.
Great. I think these are already one of the couple of things which LEDGER are going to come up in the future. But now you can take the opportunity to talk about other things you guys would like to introduce. So now feel free to just pop in things which you think are important and it's worth to know about.
Yeah, I mean, like I said earlier, I think the theme for us is freedom from compromise. I mean, I just think the original thesis of LEDGER is dead on. Like I've been alluding to throughout our conversation here. I think that there will be more digital value in the lives of humans tomorrow than there was yesterday.
Yeah.
And I think for the rest of my life, you'll be able to say that, right? And so so what is LEDGER's role? LEDGER's role is to give you, tools for self-sovereign ownership with security, and then to give you the ability to do what you want to do with those things, right? So through LEDGER and LEDGER Live, I can buy. I do weekly DCA, and I do that through partners right into LEDGER Live. It just happens automatically every week. And for me, actually, personally, for different reasons, I use 2 different partners to do that every week. And that's also a nice thing. So I have choice. You can do spot buys if you want. I did one yesterday and I used MoonPay in this case, but I get a choice and I can choose when I do that. You can also swap, like I said, if you want to go, between your crypto and a stable coin, or between 2 cryptos, super easy to do inside. You can stake. We're the #1 self-custody staker for Solana. No one's even close to us. Coinbase is ahead of us in the custody zone, but that's it. And you can do that with a lot. So like that also earning yield, super important for us. So what an amazing combo, from my perspective, to have both self-custody and staking. And we have liquid staking as well as full staking for for ETH and a number of coins. We have a credit card for off-ramp. We have other partners for off-ramp. So that's what I mean. Everything that you want to do. And we have other features as well, whether it's tax features that are built in through a partner with Ledger Live, or, article.io, which is a great site for, I use it all the time for generative art, looking at, sort of statistics, what's below market value, these sorts of
Mhm.
things. So I just say that to say, like, the whole world of things you might want to do with the digital assets you own available through Ledger Live. Then there are the things that I consider to be wallet features. I need to be able to, update my plugins to have, or my apps on my Nano to make sure I have the latest. I need to update the firmware when I need to. I want to be able to, of course, see the value that I own. I want to be able to send. I want to be able to receive. The basics. They're really, wallet features. But we continue to try to add security features as well. For example, we added security features to address address poisoning. We have other features along those lines coming to make sure that, if you're sending to an address you've never sent before, that it gives you an alert, that I get an alert on, in my case, on my watch when price goes up, or, something
Mhm.
leaves my wallet, these kinds of things. And then I'm kind of, saving the best for last, which is the big thing for us, and is to have, bigger, better displays, so that, the main thing you need to do with your ledger, which is sign, you can do easily, safely, securely. I mean, a Ledger Nano is a great device, but I am sure, as anyone, you or anyone in your audience knows, is like when you sign up a friend, and they ask you, like, wait, how do I click OK?
Yeah, yeah.
The two thumbs, clicking OK with two thumbs is not, what users are used to, right? Unless they are, long-term Ledger users. So, bringing that ease of use. So we've announced Ledger Stacks. We've had a huge challenge producing these screens because they're a curved e-ink touch
Yes.
screen. But certainly, easier to use with bigger displays is what we have been working on. And Stacks has been delayed because of this difficult to engineer screen,
Mhm.
but we haven't slowed down on development, and so we have a lot coming for people in this space, and we can't wait to get Stacks into market and to share everything that we have planned.
So there will be also devices which are like lower budget. I mean, cheaper than stacks, but replace the Nano, for example, in the future with the bigger screen. Is that also a goal in long term?
I mean, I can't say,
Oh, okay, fair enough.
I can't say what we have coming, but
Right.
certainly our goal is ease of use, right? And to do
Okay.
that, we need to have, great user interfaces. So that's what we're focused on. I think, look, what I always say is, in every industrial transformation, there's an unbundling and a rebundling,
Mm,
right? The compact disc was unbundled into the 99-cent download, and ultimately it was rebundled into Spotify, right?
right.
I think in this case, your phone is not going to become secure overnight. We ask it to do too many things. There is
Mm,
no secure screen. And so, you have a Ledger device and a phone. Long term, these will be rebundled. I think that's, 5 to 10 years away, but, like, we must, really be innovators along that curve. And that's what we continue to work on. The other thing that's worth mentioning is Ledger Enterprise, because, I believe the future will be heterogeneous. In other words, you'll do some things you'll do with custody, and some things you'll do with self-custody. But
mhm.
when you're doing them with custody, you also need to be secure. So the security of your custodian matters a lot, right? And so Ledger Enterprise, which great custodians use, and now we have a product called Ledger TradeLink, which is about being able to retain custody but trade securely, and have,
Okay.
agreement between the custodian and the exchange, so that can happen just like it does in the traditional world.
Hmm. Right.
Is I think it brings
Hmm.
ledger grade security to that, traditional trading model.
Okay. Good. And finally, um, we're living now in crazy times. I mean, when I'm recording this interview, it's like the 29th of February, and yesterday on the 28th, we did go above $64,000 when we're talking about Bitcoin. Something which many of us haven't thought probably a couple of months ago that this is going to really happening before the halving, almost 2 months before the halving. So what is your personal take of the present situation and maybe about this bull market, which is kind of happening?
It's interesting to me because I think at Ledger, we broadly did think it would happen
Okay.
before the halving. I mean, I think it's partly just, you never know. No one has a crystal ball, and there's so many things that you can't predict. But I think, we are, you know, we're deep, deep, deep believers that if you lower your time preference, we're part of the biggest bull run in the history of humanity. Right. And so I think most of us are buyers and holders, because we believe in the very long term, and we pay attention to the daily news, and we see nothing but conviction for people that are paying attention.
Mm.
you know and I think that the other thing that we see is that we see it even in our own business. If you go back to 2021, we had an incredible business, we had an incredible year in terms of revenue. There were so many things that we did not yet have in place, right? We had production challenges with, because some of them because of COVID and shortage of parts and Texas Instruments and all of
Mm.
that stuff that was happening in 20 and 21. We did not have international distribution points. Today we do. We didn't have distribution at Best Buy in the US and Boulanger in France and Virgin in the Middle East. And today we do. And, so there are all of these signs which are like of this kind of continued growth, even in the bear market. And if you look at what happened in the industry broadly, with risks of FTX being flushed out and Luna being flushed out and Binance largely being flushed out, these things that we all knew in the industry were kind of lurking on the horizon. And
Mm.
you're like, oh, I hope that domino doesn't fall. I think many of those things have been really cleaned out, and I think that's healthy in a way, right? I mean, in a
Yeah,
way,
yeah.
it's something that crypto does better than other industries, right? I mean, it's so brutal that it truly flushes things out, and there's no government there to like tell you, oh no, you're too big to fail, and we're gonna prop you up. So I think while those things are brutal, they're part of building a healthy industry. So we've seen all that happen, and then look, we have Ledger Enterprise, so we're very close to the financial institutions as well, and we see what people are thinking there.
Okay.
Dan Tapiero, who's one of the best macro people on the planet, and one of the biggest crypto bulls on the planet, is on our board of directors, right? And so when we have a board meeting, Dan generally gives us what he feels is a market update and what he feels is coming. So we none of this is particularly surprising to us. To us, it's kind of right on schedule. It's a little fast, and you have to worry about what happens when leverage builds up in the system, and the greed index goes to 11. But I think overall we just look at it as strict supply and demand. I mean, think about it. These ETFs, the first time that a truly scarce asset has ever been listed on the American Stock Exchange. I don't think people understand
Yeah.
how gigantic this is. There's no precedent for it, for people to even understand this. So I think the confluence of all of these things at once, we're going to get another cycle. That's
Mm.
obvious. We've always believed, we knew that we would. There was never a doubt. The cycle will end. There's no doubt about that either. And when it does, we'll be at a base level that's higher than we were last time, you know. But we are extremely bullish. I think we also think that we have big problems to solve, though, right? I mean,
Mm.
a big gap in ease of use between the ETF and true self-custody, right? There's
Yeah.
a big gap. I mean, the ETF is an incredibly simple product. I'd like to buy some. I'd like to sell some. Oh, thank you. It's almost Dr. Seuss, right? Whereas, like actually having custody of your own private keys, and this goes beyond crypto. For me, my 2FA on my Twitter account, my login.gov account, it's my ledger. Right? This is not just about crypto sovereignty. It's about human sovereignty.
Yep.
How can I recover my identity? These sorts of things are, play into it. So yeah, I think I think the market is crazy. I think it's going to be a crazy 18 months. I'm excited about it. We have some things that are coming that I wish they were here right now today. So that, you know what I mean? But when the wave is coming, you paddle in and you stand up and you ride the wave.
Right. You actually mentioned this 18 months because when we just looking back historically, this is usually how it's built up. But, there are people now saying if we're going actually so fast and maybe reaching, all-time high before halving and all these kind of things, it could cause a different kind of, cycle term and maybe shorten the time. What do you think about this? Because you guys have their own, board meetings talking. So what's the majority is thinking about the insiders?
I think it's so unprecedented that anybody who tells you they know,
Ah, yeah.
is a liar, right? And to be honest, it's funny. Like I scan my podcast feed and anything that is just about speculation, I don't even click play because I don't think any of us really know. I think the best thing we can do is look at the past as a
Mhm.
guide to the future, because the past is at least, a factual thing that we
Yeah.
can understand. But I do think that, the institutional buy-in that we're seeing right now, a lot of, what I think, this isn't just my personal view, this is Ian talking, not Ledger. My personal view is I think that the institutional money has wanted retail to stay out. And I think they've been successful with that. I think the FUD has kept retail out. And I think retail missed 40,000 to 60,000 as a result. Right. But I don't think that a lot of this, what happens when people come in is they get conviction. A certain amount of people get conviction and they aren't here to trade. They're here for the long term. What we don't know is how many will those people be, but there are always even better tools for them. I think the existence of Lynn Alden's book, Broken Money,
Mhm.
anybody who reads that book will hold,
Yeah.
so I look, will that book be read by most of humanity? Absolutely not. People don't even
Yeah.
read. They just scroll Twitter, I guess, but not even that. Like Twitter even is like, infinitesimal compared to, TikTok, right? So,
Yeah.
I think we don't know. But again, look at those numbers: 5.3 billion people on the internet, 5 billion on social media, 2.3 billion playing video games, only 500 million in crypto. Like, do we go to a billion people this cycle? Probably.
Mhm.
Um, and then what we don't know is like, what is that big, Terra Luna FTX thing that's lingering out on the horizon? But we are getting smarter, right? When an algorithmic stablecoin comes on the market, people ask questions.
Yep.
They ask very skeptical questions, and that's healthy. So hopefully we do get smarter and we don't get blindsided, and collectively we can do things to help take care of people. And I'm super happy that there are great companies, like Coinbase. I think that we'll get a lot of people on this like clear signing train, which will be great for for people. I think we will genuinely save people in many cases with Ledger Recover, and like you just you build up more tools to bring more people on. Because I think that's the other thing. We talk about onboarding the masses, but I mean, let's look at, we're not ready for them. If
Yep.
you just look at the usability, we're not ready. Like, imagine if a billion people walked in tomorrow. What, we want them all to use MetaMask? Like, I mean, really? Like, that's not real
Mhm.
life. Like that's not a mainstream product. So I think we have a lot of collective work to do. And also, last thing I'll say, I'm old. So I remember, I graduated college in 94. I remember
Mhm.
1998, 99 extremely well.
Mhm.
Um, and what I remember is that all the ideas that everyone laughed at in 1999 were part of life by 2012, 2013.
Mhm.
So again, if you were starting a company that was focused on long form video on the internet in 1998 or 99, you probably went out of business, but you weren't wrong. You were just very, very, very early.
Yep.
So, you have to build and build and build and build and build and build and build. And then it does tip over at some point. And
Mhm.
I always say, I believe it takes 15 years. I've never seen it take any less. So I think those ideas that we saw in the last bull market, they're not going to come true in this cycle either.
Yeah.
The ideas that we had about, tons of different things, whether
Metaverses and all these kind of things. Yeah.
yeah, metaverses or even, ultrasound money, right? Like
Yep.
they're probably not wrong ideas. They're probably just, 15 years from reality, not 15 months,
Mm.
you know?
Yeah.
And that's really the key from my perspective. I mean, I see a lot of entrepreneurs, and many times they come to me with an idea that I believe will be inevitable in 20 years, but that's to me, that's the context. Like, how do you live for 20 years? How do you keep this company alive, for at least 12 years to get to where the consumer adoption is there? And then you go, oh, shit, yeah, I'd only really thought about 24 months. Like, yeah, okay, you're probably going to run out of money,
Yeah.
Doesn't mean you're wrong, but being early is the same as being wrong, right? So I think that's
Yeah,
really
I
cool.
got your point. Yeah, yeah, yeah. By the way, Bitcoin is 15 years old, so
Yeah,
maybe we are right
exactly.
spot on time.
No, exactly. It's funny, how I came up with 15 as the time. I
No?
tell this
Tell me.
story often, but I in the 90s, I had a TV in my living room, and I connected it to a PC, and I was downloading off of like Where's servers and watching movies. And I was like, no, we're not going to have cable anymore. Like all of our media is going to come off the internet, which in 1998 was like my friends were like, Ian, you are crazy, right? Like the internet doesn't actually work. You know what I mean? Like internet for me is like loads like this.
Mm.
So then many years later, my mom called me, and she told me that she got rid of cable and she only has Roku. And I was like, okay, how long was that? It was
All right.
15, it was 15
That
years. And I
was.
was like, that's how long it takes. 15 years. From when it's inevitable to when it actually happens, to like a mainstream, not a geek like me, but a mainstream consumer like my mom, 15 years. So I think it's 15 years.
So that's your own personal measure to.
That's my personal measure. I think you're right about Bitcoin. I think Bitcoin might, I think we could have a very serious supply shock, and the numbers that we see on Bitcoin in the cycle could make people, maybe you and I aren't ready for it.
Yep.
I think it could happen but if it's the case, it's because of 15 years. It's because 15 years means mainstream. It means product market fit. It means people going, yeah, this does make sense for the government to have it in the treasury. You know what I mean? Wait till we
Yeah,
find out.
obviously. Yeah.
Wait till we find out that some government has been secretly, stacking Bitcoin for the past 12
Sure.
months. You know what I mean?
I mean,
Like,
easily can happen. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I,
So,
I I think it's probably likely that that's the
mm,
news we get over the next 12 months. We find out some government has been, you know what I mean? And that's the kind of thing where people go, oh, wait, I'm in trouble if I'm not there. You know what I
especially
mean?
if it's not the third world country. So this would be because we know we underestimate those countries. Okay, El Salvador, but yeah, okay, it's not the biggest country in the world, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But when the first country, which is actually a developed country, doing that, then they would say that, well, I might have to think about it as well.
Yeah. And I think that's it. Maybe, and I'm so sorry we're over time. I talk a
Yeah,
lot,
yeah, yeah.
but
No, no, no. I love to talking to you because now I have this opportunity to get all this information. I'm pretty sure my viewers also love it. But I don't want your time take longer now. So first of all, I highly appreciate that you spent time and explained all these kind of things, which I think are very, very important to understand Ledger future, Ledger goals even more in depth, and they understand why they using Ledger and how Ledger can protect them, in the future. Of course, it's totally normal that we have our ups and downs, and if we try out new things, there are mistakes coming. We're learning from the problems, and then we solve them, and then the new things. So this is the way how we learn things in life, anyway. So I think this is totally normal. So I wish you good luck with all the new
thank you so
things
much.
which are
Same for you.
coming up.
I really enjoyed talking to you, and let's do it again. Let's
I
wait
love to. Yeah, I
let's
mean,
wait let's wait a
sometimes.
couple months and do it again. Whenever you think it's time, call me up. I'm happy to do it again.
Thank you. I'm happy to
Yeah.
do it. Good. I wish you all the best, and thanks again to being here. Then
Same
have
to
a good
you.
one.
I hope I
Okay.
see you soon. You
Bye bye.
too.
See you. I hope you liked this interview, and if yes, then simply hit the like button. You can also comment that would you like to have similar videos in the future as well. My daily routine is to bring the freshest cryptocurrency and blockchain news here on Blockchain Bloom, but sometimes I'm happy to do these kind of interviews as well if it's useful for you, so you can let me know in the comment section. See you in the next video. Have a good one. Bye bye.